If you think back to the 2000 decade, that was really the golden age for a lot of traditional hedge funds. And one of the reasons why is you had the market cap weighted index, so the S&P, reach its highest valuation ever in the late 90s. So 1999, it hit a long-term P ratio of about 45. And so, for perspective, historically, the average is around 18, low inflationary times, it's low 20s. Today, it's all the way back up to around 35. So expensive, but not the real bubble territory we had back then. And so, almost anything outperformed for the next decade: gold, real estate, small caps, value investing. So, hedge funds, a lot of the traditional strategies, if you invest in anything other than the S&P, you look brilliant for about a decade. Money flowed in, a lot of the endowments, which were heavy into these sort of alternative investors. But I had a thesis where I said traditional hedge funds, it's not an asset class, right? It's more of a structure and an approach and more of a compensation structure than anything. And traditionally, hedge funds charge 2% management fees and 20% performance, which is an enormous amount. So I got a bug in my brain and I got to thinking and I said, and Warren Buffett's not a hedge fund, but he runs a very large equity portfolio, but it's mixed in with things at Berkshire. And I was like, what if you just bought what Buffett bought? And we have a fun old tweet where we ask people, we say, do you think you're a better stock picker than Buffett? And everyone, no. And then the follow on tweet is, well, do you invest in Berkshire or buy his stock picks in the 13Fs? And everyone was also no. And there's a disconnect there, right? Everyone knows he's a better stock picker, but doesn't invest in his stock picks. That's an odd disconnect. So I said, could you just track Buffett through his publicly disclosed filings? And so for listeners who don't know what a 13F is, there's certain rules and they change over the years. But if you're a large institutional investor, you have to disclose your portfolio once a quarter, but it's 45 days delayed. So everyone just assumes that this delay, the information is going to be stale. But a lot of the great stock pickers, Seth Klarman, Warren Buffett, on, they don't trade that much. And then even then, if you ask Buffett, he's like, timing is not necessarily my alpha or my strong point. And so there's been cases where Buffett buys a stock and then it continues to go down. So we did a study on this, and this book's free on our website, as is most of our books. It's called Invest with the House. But we profiled a lot of these managers, famous value investors, and found that, not surprisingly, you could approximate their fund returns. But the big difference is you're not paying 2 and 20 for most of these, right? Buffett, again, different animal, but a lot of these managers, you don't have the lockups, you don't have the minimums. We wrote the book and say, hey, it's like an idea farm. You don't have to directly copy all the holdings. There's some nuances in there, like the macro managers. People are always talking in the media. Here's what Dalio and Bridgewater are doing. And you're like, well, hey, hold on. You don't necessarily want to be following some of these macro managers because some of the derivatives don't show up, some of the options and shorts and all these other things. I think it's a strategy with a lot of merit. If you're a person that's either looking for stock ideas, say, and my favorites are not the like hedge fund hotel names where you're like, oh my God, every single fund owns this stock. I like the ones where I look through the holdings like, oh, I've actually never even heard of this position. So anyway, it's a fun idea, fun strategy, and worth digging into. The problem is for most investors, they don't know who most of the hedge fund investors are.